Hi and welcome to Perfect Glamour Fashion. In today's tutorial, we're going to be attempting to recreate this dress as seen on Vicky James. I know it looks quite simple, but the sewing process is not as simple as it looks. But I've made this detailed tutorial to show you how you can achieve yours. Alright, so the first thing we're going to be doing is to mark the zip allowance. This is because we are starting by drafting the back pattern. The back pattern is going to serve as a guide for the front pattern. Okay, so I'm cutting the back on the fabric itself. I'm not cutting with the pattern pieces, and you would see why I'm doing that later. And now to fold your fabric, when you want to fold your fabric, make sure you have your hip divided by 4 inches plus like 14 inches, between 12 to 14 inches extra before you fold your material. Okay, the extra 14 inches is going to serve as space for your flare when you're cutting the down part. You would see as we keep going, right? So now I've ruled the start line and I've divided my shoulder by 2, and I mark and I came down by 1 inch to form a shoulder slope. Okay, I'm just going to rule the shoulder slope into the start line. Okay, now for the armhole, I'm coming down by my armhole length, which is 8 inches, and your armhole length is basically your bust divided by 6 plus 2 inches. So for me, I got 8 inches, or you can just wrap your tape around your armhole, and whatever it is your armhole measurement. So I'm going to rule a straight line to connect to the point of the 8 inches I ruled as my armhole length, and then I'm going to divide my bust by 4 and mark. Now this is going to help me form an angle. So this is the basic way we achieve our armhole. So if you already have a way of drafting your own armhole, just go ahead and do that. Now I divided the line by 2, and then I came in by 1/2 inch, and I drew a curved line to form the armhole curve. So this is what we have at the end of the day. This is your armhole. It's as simple as this. Okay, all right, so the next thing we're going to be doing is to mark our vertical measurements. So I'm going to be marking half length. The half length I'm using for the back is 14.5. Okay, the half length for this person is actually 15.5, but I'm using 14.5. I'm removing 1 inch, and you're going to know why when we are cutting the front. Okay, so just bear this in mind. Take away at least 1 inch from your half length. Okay, so I'm marking the waist to hip measurement, which is 9 inch for this client, and then we'll be rolling that out. So whatever is your waist to hip measurement, go ahead and mark, and then we'll square up the line. Now the next thing we're going to be rolling out is the length of the gown. Now because there's going to be ruffles attached to the gown, I'll have to take out 4 inches or more, depending on how long I want the ruffles to be, but 4 inches is good. So I'll take out 4 inches from the actual gown length, and then I'll add 1/2 inch sewing allowance and then mark. So at the end of the day, I ended up marking 36 inches instead of 40 inches for the length, 36.5 inches instead of 40 inches. And then I came up to the waist and I marked the waist circumference divided by 4. And then I added 1/2 inch for the dart allowance. Okay, instead of 1 inch for that, we usually use 1 inch for that, but I used 1/2 inch for that because the dart is going to be on one side. Okay, so let's continue. And then for the hip, I marked the hip divided by 4, and then I added extra 3 inches. This is to help me with when I'm drawing the flare. Like you see the way I connected to the 3 inches instead of connecting to the actual hip measurement, and then I just ruled out an A line, ruled out an A shape, okay, all the way to the down part of the skirt. I hope this is clear enough. And then at that down part, I came up by 2 inches. You can come up by 3 inches, okay, so that it would align when you are joining the flare, to ensure that there is no part of the flare that is like lower than the rest. I hope that's understood. Okay, for the shoulder, I marked 2 inches from the armhole side towards the center front. So 2 inches. This is going to help with that off shoulder look. It's still on the shoulder, but it looks kind of like a canyon neck, a wide canyon neck. Okay, so you can use 2 inches or 2.5, depending on how wide you want it to be. And then I came down by 8 inches. So with this, I formed a U-shaped neck. I don't know if that's what it's called, but it's like a U-shaped neck. Yeah. So a deep, U-shaped neck. And then I added sewing allowance to the shoulder. I hope this is clear. And if you have any question, I'll be right there at the comment section to answer all your questions. Okay. So now this is me adding sewing allowance. I used 2 inches for the sewing allowance, and then I added the sewing allowance all through the gown, the side of the gown. Okay, and then I use 1/2 inch for, I've already added 1/2 inch sewing allowance when I was measuring for the length of the gown. Okay, I hope that's clear. All right, so I'll add 2 inches sewing allowance. This to help me turn in the lining I'll be using, and then still have sewing allowance for joining. With that done, I'm also adding 1/2 inch sewing allowance for the neckline. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to take out 1/2 inch from the waist around the zip allowance. This is to avoid anything like zip bulge and all of that. So I take a 1/2 inch and then I connect it right back to the neckline, and then I connect it right down to the hip region, just nicely like that. And there you have it. So you're done with the back piece. And so we're done with one part of this dress. Okay, so we're going to be moving over to the front once I'm done cutting this out. So if you've watched this video to this point, that means you like our content. So do well to give this video a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm know that you like it, and then it helps it to push the video out to other persons that might be needing to make this dress. Okay, for the front, you're going to place your pattern paper on fold. So I had to join 2 pattern papers to be able to achieve this. Now I'm rolling my start line. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Rule your start line. Okay, so at the start line, I'm going to rule my shoulder divided by 2, like we did at the back. Okay, so we're actually going to just replicate the armhole we did for the front at the back. So I came down by 1 inch and connected it back to the start line to form the shoulder slope. And then I'm going to mark my armhole length, which is 8 inches for this client, and then I'm going to mark half of that, and then I am going to rule a straight line. And in order to make sure I get the straight line, I'll rule the same shoulder divided by 2 downwards, and then I connect the straight line. I hope you understood that. Okay, so that's to guide me to make sure I get a straight line. And the next thing I'm going to do is to come in to mark the bust divided by 2, bust divided by 4, sorry, and then form the angle of the armhole angle. I'll come in by 1/2 inch on the center of the armhole line, and then I'm going to use my curved ruler to just connect to form the armhole. So this is basically it for the armhole. Now for the front, I'm also going to mark the vertical measurements, which includes the bust point. The bust point here is 10. I also marked the half length, okay, and then the waist to hip, and that's where I'm going to stop. The rest of the measurements, I'm going to be bringing in the back to fill up for the rest of the measurements. Now, I hope you're following up to this point. If you're new to my channel, you're welcome. Thank you very much for clicking on this video. Do well to subscribe. We post sewing tutorials every week to make sure that you're a professional fashion designer. Okay, so to continue with our tutorial, you mark your nipple to nipple measurement. That's a nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, and mark, in this case, this is 3.5 inches, and then you square up the line. And on the waistline, you're going to go in by 1/2 inch on both sides. This is the simple way to form your darts. Okay, so you're going to come down by 5 inches And then I like to come down by 1 inch at the bust region. Okay, I don't really like that getting very close to the bust to the bust point. Okay, so you can do it anyhow you really are comfortable, but this is how I do mine. So then I'm going to be connecting the lines. I'm going to be connecting dots to form a simple dart. So this dart is only going to be in one part of the dress. Okay, if you notice in the inspiration video, you will see that it just has one side dart and then that's it. Okay, so I'm ruling the waist divided by 4 and I'm adding ½ inch sewing allowance like we did at the back. Okay, so ½ inch sewing allowance and that's all. And then I'm going to be connecting this to the bust point, to the bust divided by 4 at the bust point, and then I'm just going to be squaring up the line like so. Okay, the next thing we're going to be doing is to come down by 1 inch. Remember that we took out ½ inch from the half length at the back. So we're adding back that 1 inch to form a bust dart. If you notice the picture, you see that it has a bust dart going on the both sides, but it has a French dart by just one side. Okay, all right, so that's a simple way to form your bust dart. All right, now I'm introducing the front part. Now make sure you align the waist and then align the zip allowance. Make sure that the start line is the same with the front, and then the waistline also aligns properly, and then you rule out the down part instead of having to rule the down part again and maybe it will not align and be the same. I just placed the back and then used it to rule out the down part of the front. I hope that makes sense. Okay, all right, so once I'm done doing this, you're going to see how it's going to look like. So easy, so simple. So we're going to be ruling that part out. I used broken lines to, you know, just get it into the pattern paper, and then I'm just shading it out to help with the cutting part, so I will see what I'm cutting. Sure. All right, now the next thing is going to be to add allowance to the front. I'm going to add the 2 inches allowance I used at the back. Okay, I'm going to also add it to the front, to the upper part, because already the down part already has sewing allowance from the back. You understand how this is going, right? Okay, so I'm closing up and connecting the armhole, you know, to flow all the way down. And don't forget to replace that indicator that you have a bust dart. Okay, so this is just an indicator, so you don't go ahead and cut your fabric, you know, all the way straight and then you end up having such shortage. Okay, so when you're cutting on the fabric, do well to indicate that there is that by the side, so that when you cut, you will not have any form of sausage. I hope you understood that, right? Okay, so now to the other part of the front. The next thing to do is to open up the pattern paper. Remember, we placed it on fold at first when we were drafting the other side of the front. Okay, so now that we want to draft the second side of the front, if you notice the front, there is, you know, it's not really the same on the both parts of the bust. Okay. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is to square up the lines to continue ruling out what would be obtainable in the other side of the front. I hope that's clear. All right, so the next thing is to also mark your nipple to nipple measurement all the way down. This is to help you form a straight line. It's to help you just form a straight line all the way down. Your nipple to nipple measurement is going to serve as that straight line. If you notice that straight line that the buttons were placed on, okay, so that's what we are ruling out. We're almost done with this dress and it's already coming together. Okay, at least for the cutting part. Okay, so you're going to rule it all the way down. All the way down. I'm so sorry you can't see me ruling it all the way down. This is the frame that my camera could capture. Okay, for the shoulder, remember we used 2 inches for the shoulder for the back. Around the armhole region, we come in by 2 inches for the shoulder. So we're doing the same for the back. Okay, so we're doing exactly the same thing for the back. I'm squaring up the line to the top because I'm going to need the line up. So I'm going to go up on that line. Please look very closely, okay? I'm going to go up by 3 inches. and I'm going to connect a slightly, forget I'm using a straight ruler here, I'm still going to use a curve ruler because I need it to be a bit curvy, just a little bit, slightly curvy line towards that neck region. Yeah. And then on the other part, I've also come in by 2 inches like I did for the front, like I did on this other side. Okay, and I'm going to connect that point down to this shoulder, this neckline that I came up by 3 inches. I hope that's really clear. Okay, if you have any question, like I said earlier, I'm in right there in the comment section. Now in the down part of the dress, I'm coming up by 6 inches, and this 6 inches, if you notice the inspiration video, you will notice that there is a sweetheart's hemline kind of, there is just this curve towards this line. Okay, so I came up by 6 inches, and then I just used my curved ruler to form a curve, and I made sure that I replicated it on the other side. Okay, I hope that's clear enough. And so I just did this, and then I cut my front. So yeah, this is the cutting process. I know it's a bit long, so I decided to stop here. I'm going to be doing another tutorial showing you how I put this piece together. So see you in my next video. Bye.